So this is Peter Cloud Panjoyah. Do you remember Thanksgiving dinner years ago at a church? It was, I think, 60s theme.
I sure do. I have pictures.
Oh,
I
do
know it.
you?
I can prove it happened.
Yeah, I wondered if you remembered. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's been a long time. I think that's probably the last time I saw you.
Oh my goodness. That's about 15 years.
Yeah.
Just about coming up on 14. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, I'm gonna change the vision here, transition so that the big screen is you and I'm off in the corner. So
Okay.
we'll give you center stage here.
All right.
So I was interested in seeing that you had published a book.
Yes.
And I wondered what brought that about.
Well, it was interesting because I had been, by the time the real genesis of the book happened, I had been involved in I had embarked on an emotional healing path, about 10 years prior. And members of my family didn't quite get it. They didn't quite get why I was into that. And by that time, they were living on the East Coast. I was living on the West Coast. And we got into a three-way dialogue. I'm speaking about my mother and my sister and myself. And we got into a three-way dialogue where they'd ask me questions about, why are you doing that? Why are you saying that? And I'd explain it. And at one point, going into fairly long explanations, some back and forth on it. And my sister said, you have a really good way of explaining really kind of esoteric stuff. And you should consider writing a book about it. And I had never thought of doing such a thing. And at the same time, I was feeling like, 10 years on this path of doing kind of DIY emotional healing work, that, I actually did have a lot to share. And it took a couple of years, but I started writing articles for my island newspaper. And they'd come out once a month. And I had I had a 600 word limit, and I'd pick a topic and write about it. And my partner, Phoenix, would edit it and help me, laser what I wanted to say. And so that went on for about 5 years. But sometime during the first year, I started kind of collecting all the articles and putting them in a place. And another friend of mine who had similar interests and had a website started posting the articles on her website. And eventually I transferred them over to a blog of mine. And so it started rolling at that point.
Okay. Sorry, I was just checking the chat window there.
That's okay.
Okay, so I did something similar. I was writing a polyamory blog for a while there, and I ended up collecting the blog postings and editing them up and pulling them together for a book. So it's a good way to do something like that. So good for you. And so this book then is the collection of those articles, or
okay, so the articles were the bare bones of the book, and I started fleshing them out. And over the course of what became 17 years of writing and editing, I started adding to it and branching out. And I stopped writing articles around 2007 for the paper, but kept picking away at expanding them and writing new material. And eventually it got to book length. And sometime around 2013-ish timeframe, I started reaching out to some other people that were part of a community I was in of people who did this kind of personal work, and talking to individuals in that community and about possibly looking at what I had written and editing it. And I made a decision early on. I had the vision, okay, I'm going to expand this into a book. And that's why I'm writing all this extra stuff beyond the articles. So now I'm going into getting volunteer editors, amateur editors, but they were, very good editors. And I made a decision right around that time. I'm not going to go down a traditional publishing route because I don't want a publisher to try to say what belongs and what doesn't, because I felt like the material, if you're not living this material, it's just going to be too esoteric for anyone else outside of it to be able to say, no, that shouldn't go in there. That's too weird, or that's too whatever. I wanted full control. So I decided to go a self-publishing route.
Sounds good. All right, and the name of the book is?
Healing and Dealing, Essays on Becoming Whole. And that's the essays part is the sort of the subtitle. And that came on, the Healing and Dealing title came on fairly early on when I was submitting to the paper, because I needed to call it something and call the column something. And so that's what I decided to call it. I don't know where that name came from. It just sort of popped up. I
like it. I'm wondering about hold.
Yeah. Everyone wants to know about this word hold. What is that a misprint? Did you put a typo on your cover? But actually, I explain it at some point why I chose that word, but it's all about the fact that we never, in my opinion, we never get anywhere. Like we never get to a destination. It's all, it's sort of a cliche now. You can say, well, it's all about the journey, and it is, but I don't think we ever get to a place where we're 100% whole. And maybe we get to a place where we're healed and we've gone through all the backlog of our stuff that's been accumulating since childhood, and if you believe in past lives, then all down through lifetimes. And I feel like the process of becoming whole is like, I don't know, it seemed like an active thing, and somehow that word hold got into my brain, and that I couldn't shake it. So I ended up holding on to it and keeping it to remind myself and maybe others that we don't actually have a destination. We keep evolving. We keep learning about ourselves. And so we get to the, I guess I could have called it Essays on Wholing, because the process of becoming whole is a process that connotes activity, and that's an ing word. I think that form works, but I stuck with hold for some reason, and that's locked in now.
I was thinking that you meant having to have had achieved wholeness, that the hold was the destination.
It could be, and I actually, part of it is when that word came through, I thought, I'm just going to let people make of it what they will, and it's going to mean different things to different people. So I like that, what you just fed back. I like that description just as much as anything I've come up with about it.
Cool. So we're on the same page then. I get what you're putting down.
Yeah, great.
Did you want to read?
Sure, I'll read some things. I've got some excerpts. Throw on the readers here, and I'm going to read a segment. The book is divided into 5 parts, and spiritual, emotional, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and relational, where our 4 parts, the first 4 combine with another's 4, intersect with another's 4, and that's the relational, what I'm calling the relational body. So every part is a body, and I'm taught that the chapters within those parts reflect the different bodies. So I'm going to read the first chapter, from the part 2 of the emotional body, and it's chapter 7 called Emotional Expression and Denial, and I'm going to read from that.
Alrighty.
How often have we heard the phrase body, mind, and spirit bandied about? Or how about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, to put it a more traditional way? It's practically a cliche that our culture sidesteps or looks past the feminine principle. This principle, mother energy, is inextricably linked to emotions. Regardless of our gender, the mother energy within us is our emotional body, containing qualities with soft purring features like desire, receptivity, and intuition. And let's face it, the emotional side of mother energy has been thoroughly denied in most of us at some point, even in women. As consciously growing adults, many of us have begun edging towards acceptance of our emotional reality. We're occasionally starting to notice when we are angry, sad, feeling hurt, or scared. Other times, we just know we do not feel good, but we do not know why. Expression is the key. The following quote was taken from a discussion on emotions from a well-known social networking website. Emotions are not thought about. Emotions are experienced. Emotions are felt. Emotions are sensed. Emotions are integrated into our consciousness through feeling the sensations in our body. I would like to add to this list a key piece of the puzzle. Emotions can be expressed through the body via physical movement, sound, or tears. Allowing our triggered emotions to make wordless sound causes an increase in the emotion's vibration that evolves them from their current state of relative stasis, quietude, or outright denial. Depending on the person, this state runs the gamut from utter suppression on the most denied end to noting, feeling, sensing, but rarely expressing on the other pole of the denial spectrum. When the emotions are expressed, they vibrate. And when they vibrate, they evolve. And as they evolve, they release the buried treasure of understanding so that I become consciously aware of what the root cause of the emotion is, often different than the surface trigger that stirred the emotion to life. This is a synergistic experience of spirit, mind, emotions, and body, where once enough expression has occurred, healing happens. Among our earliest messages, shut up. Denial is hereditary, passed down through generations. As our society matures, many parents are no longer swatting their children for emotionally expressing sound, as many of our parents and their parents did. Still, the encouragement to deny expression is everywhere. Denial is there in the well-meaning parent joggling a baby to, quote, help her stop fussing. It is there in distracting young children with TV and videos and food rewards if they would just quiet down. It is there in laws and social mores that discourage adults from being outwardly emotional, especially loudly. A friend of mine, a new mother, could not understand why her 5-month-old was constantly whiny and seemingly unhappy for a large part of his days. It did not seem to be a physical discomfort as she routinely went through the standard solutions of nipple, new diaper, burping, etc., none of which appeared to help him. I sat down with the baby for a few minutes. He was sitting up on a blanket, fussing away, while Mom walked away for a brief while. As the baby cried and yelled, he held eye contact with me. I let the baby know I accepted his expression. Yes, it's hard, isn't it? I said gently. You go right ahead and let me know how hard it really is. His expression amped up slightly. I simply sat and held eye contact as he cried and sounded, clearly surprised that a grown-up would encourage him to sound off, largely by staying with him while not attempting to stop or distract him. I held an intent to be with him as long and loud as he wanted to go. I did not try to steer or alter the course his emotions were taking in order to clear themselves. Not long afterward, he quieted, having been allowed to completely finish whatever it was he needed to express. He was witnessed, accompanied, and unhindered, and that allowed his emotional body to clear the layer that was up for him rather swiftly and easily. 2 months later, I received a call from his mom who let me know that from that day forward, her baby no longer seemed colicky or had long crying jags for no apparent reason. Sometimes acceptance is all the emotional body needs in order to clear itself of old charge. There can be acceptance of others, such as in the story of myself and the baby, only if one has fully accepted their own emotions. Otherwise, the other will sense the unreleased judgments and lack of acceptance, and this won't be effective. We need to focus first on deeply accepting our own internal emotional process before becoming truly effective in helping others accept theirs. Ceasing the management of emotions is often what is called for, regardless of the age of the expressor. Expression, then understanding. Emotional expression has cycles. It revs up, it peaks, it cycles down, and stasis occurs. Then integration occurs, understandings come in whatever degree they come. Sometimes thereafter the next trigger happens, and on we go. Our fear of and judgments about expression say that it will get worse, or that particular sessions will never end. Expression sessions. We fear we will become slaves to our feelings. Emotional expression needs to come first, seeking mental understandings second. We have traditionally pushed for the other way around. Here's an exchange most of us have heard before. Why are you angry? I don't know why I'm angry, I'm just angry. But what's it about? Subtext. So I know it's justified and therefore I can support its existence. It is antithetical, hostile, and negating to the emotional body to require justification and explanation for its strength and breadth ahead of allowing its complete cycle of movement and integration. The attempt to mentally justify whether to express or not has been used against the emotional body. Justifying ahead of expressing has resulted in emotions missing the window of opportunity to release when they are at flashpoint, a window which often can be as small as a second or less. The judgments present here range from labels of insanity to a stern message of unjustified rage, or any unjustified emotion should not be allowed since there's no apparent good reason for it, and everything in between. Emotions are never wrong to exist. When I communicate about how it felt, I am in the land of the subjective, having left the judgmental minefield of the land of the objective. I am on the right track because my feelings are not wrong. They are not objectively accurate via some assessment by an outside person, but they are real to me, and so they are true for me and thus never wrong. Every emotion is valid. Emotions are natural functions of a healthy body. Their roots may be sourced in past trauma, as a lot of our current emotions are charged to the extent they are due to a backlog of suppressed expression, and therefore may seem unreasonable or unjustifiable in proportion to the trigger. This is also why it's crucial to move in private, as the triggering person is often not the source of the triggered emotion. But even if they are, the charge is more efficiently released in private away from the triggerer. Doing so also helps us to shift from blaming to true transformational expression. So I see that I've been rambling for about 8 minutes here. Shall we pause or shall I keep going?
Sorry, I was muted. How about you pause for a bit there?
Sure.
And we digest that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I've experienced where emotion blocks. It blocks me when I'm trying to write. And I want to write I'm working on a particular project, and my emotions about something else are blocking me, and it requires me to, as you say, clear. And my way of clearing is often writing, but writing something else. So if I'm very angry, I'll write a really, really bloodthirsty piece. Or if I'm, like I went through a period just recently, both my parents passed away, and it was quite a block to writing my novel because I had so much really unaddressed grief. And so I worked on some poetry that cleared that for me, and it was quite an inspiring thing. And I think journaling sometimes does that for people. They can't say to somebody, "You're an ass and I want to smack you," but they might write it down.
Right.
Famous thing of writing a letter to somebody that's passed away or is sort of out of reach of a conversation, and dispelling your emotions, whatever they be, in that format. So all of those things would go along with what you're saying about needing to clear.
Yeah. Well, one of the emphases I come back to time and again in the book is your way is wrong for you or wrong for anyone else who really finds relief that way. That for many people, emotion, the expression in sound of emotions, and it can be tears or it can be movement in body, and the sound doesn't have to be a big sound, it can be a very subtle sound. But I find that there's something, I've noticed this when I'm expressing an emotion in a safe space, so I can really let go, that my body is literally vibrating. I can put my hand on my body while I'm making sound, and I can feel a vibration happening through my body. And there's something about that. There's something about the vibration that actually seems to speed up the emotions to where they get through a layer from making that sound or crying those tears. And for example, if I'm doing what you're doing, say if I'm angry or I'm sad and I need to write, because it's not quite at the surface and I can't do anything with it other than to feel it. I can't express it because it's not quite there yet. So I might use that writing as a tool to get to the place where I am at flashpoint or activation point. And I find that can work really well for getting to the place where I can actually start to vibrate that emotion. And whereas if I had just written it entirely, it doesn't ever kind of get out of me, or it doesn't quite have that transformational effect. But there
was
me.
A fair bit of crying. There was a fair bit of crying.
So mixed into the writing. So
Absolutely.
Yes, so you used it as a tool to get to the trigger, or it just happened organically and spontaneously. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, so it is
right, because some people,
I was going to say it is a physical thing as well as a thinking thing and a feeling thing. They're all really tied together.
Yeah, they really are.
And there are people that use, physical activity to allow them to reach emotions too. Hey, punching bags being one, right?
Yes. And I found too, again, it's like that physical movement is so good for like getting that stuck anger energy in motion. And then sometimes, in the past, I haven't used a punching bag so much as when I've been triggered in my early years of doing this process, I felt like I had a lot of violence stuck, like compressed into my old anger that would get triggered, and I needed to hit things and I needed to throw things. And when I would do that, sometimes I would just spontaneously be yelling as I did that. And that seemed to unlock like a real layer where that anger would kind of pump me. It would kind of take on a life of its own and really move through me without my control whatsoever. It would be like unlocking this wellspring that would rise up from my subconscious like a geyser from the deep underground and kind of take me over for a bit. But it always ends. I feel like I always want to add that to people who are new to an emotional release process, a self-healing process, that the layer always comes to an end by an organic end, a natural end. I think people get afraid that they're going to get lost they're going to get absolutely lost in it if they give into it at all. It's like some people, in my experience, are holding back so hard and for so long that, and they've admitted it, that, wow, if I feel like if I don't hold this back with all my might, it'll take me over. And I remember being at that place. I remember feeling like if I give into this, I'm lost.
You think that it's a bit like layers of an onion, though, that you get through one layer and kind of deal at that point, and then something else will trigger the next level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm looking here to see if there's any questions. I don't see any.
Okay.
So, no. Lots of people like my red hair.
Your hair has always been red, hasn't it?
I had some days when it was a strawberry blonde, but yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, it looks like how I've always remembered you.
Yeah, I've been in it like this for a while. So, and people want to give away. We'll do the giveaway later, people. We always do it at 8 o'clock, so we've got lots of time. Mm-hmm. So, Peter, did you want to read another excerpt?
Oh, sure. I've got lots of excerpts that I've sort of flagged here.
Oh, so you might tell us what your website is where they can buy this book.
Oh, sure. It's Healing and Dealing, all one word, .net. And there's obvious pages where you can buy, and there's excerpts out there. There's a little paragraph about me. There's there's a few other pages in there, but those are some of the main pages.
Right, and you said it's available at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, it's available. Well, it's listed in the on the buy page, on the purchase page on the website. There's 3 formats to the book, whichever one's your preference. There's a soft cover, which I had been waiting for the longest time. It finally got listed in Barnes & Noble as the first place, and that was good enough for me to say, okay, world, here it is. Right. And there's also an audiobook out on that page, read by me, and an ebook.
The ebook, if it's Barnes & Noble, will be Nook.
Nope, I don't think there's a Barnes & Noble ebook yet.
Okay.
There are 2 different formats. If you have a Kindle, there's there's different stores that'll be available. They'll be linked from my site to go out and get the one that works for you.
And where's the audiobook?
The audiobook is also on the same page.
So you have to download it from your website then?
No. So you'd go out to healinganddealing.net/buy-the-book. And on that page, there are links to every format. Okay. And when you click on one of those links, they're all links to retail sites.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Alrighty, go ahead with your excerpt.
Sure. Then. Okay, I'm gonna go down to.
Oh, my moderator has posted the link that you just said in the chat, so people can.
Very good.
Jump right on it. So there you go.
Excellent.
And I did send. Posted to my Facebook page, my Instagram, and my Twitter that you were going to be on tonight, and gave a link to your website as well.
Oh, great. Thanks for that. Yeah, I was telling a few people as well, and my understanding is it'll be podcast to your YouTube page sometime after our talk tonight. Yeah,
it's a video recording of this chat that we're having now. It goes up to YouTube, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read from part 5, The Relational Body, and chapter 35, The Art of Loving Touch. Every mammal needs loving touch or it cannot thrive. We watch cats, dogs, and horses nuzzling and licking each other, curling up together, and we feel warm and fuzzy. How about 2 humans lovingly nuzzling each other, in plain view, in a non-sexual friendship? Wow, Witnessing that, sometimes we feel a bit queasy and uneasy. Notice the strictures around human beings touching each other, and it's no wonder so many of us are touch-starved, even in committed relationships. It is not okay for non-mated friends to walk arm in arm down the street in Western Hemisphere communities, especially same-sex friends. Stroking a friend lovingly is not acceptable, even in private, unless the friends are in sexual relationship. A cross-gendered pair of friends are not encouraged to touch each other without a sexual agenda. Moreover, we tend to presume such an agenda. These possibilities of loving human interaction are not taught in school, seen on TV, or appropriately modeled by many parents or adults. Touch or violence. Societal morality has steered us away from healthy, loving, needful touch. War is in part caused by people who did not get touched enough as babies and children, who grow up to be adults continuing to receive little or no loving touch, and who act out that denial of touch by hitting, striking, shooting, or bombing the enemy. Ever notice how much easier it is to fight with a loved one when you're standing at a distance? If we're touching, attack comes much less easily. The idea of separation is encoded into our very DNA. Many of us seek to restore a sense of oneness with all people, but the road towards seeing everyone else as like me rather than different than me is long, because we're dealing with genetic imprinting, which is reversible only after significant healing and dealing. Loving touch, even from oneself, that does not include intent to sexually arouse, feeds body a crucial nutrient and helps adults heal from wounds of separation and attack, including sexual violation. Safe touch for young children. If you have children, especially newborns and toddlers under a year old or are about to have children, I highly recommend contact parenting for as many months into your child's life as possible. Jean Liedloff's The Continuum concept and Ashley Montague's Touching are must-reads regarding the health and wellness benefits of constant levels of loving touch for very young children. And I'm going to spill into another chapter. Chapter 36, Sexual Wounding. Within nearly every adult human lies the ability to bond and join with another adult at the deepest possible levels through sexual union. It's this ideal that keeps many of us searching for the perfect coupling to bring us the bliss we've heard about, that we dream is possible, and that we even fleetingly achieved one time, one night, years ago with somebody who's not even around anymore. True magic and power, the ultimate creative rocket fuel, is inherent in our sexuality, but in many of us, it sure does not feel that way. Some of us feel sexually depressed, ho-hum, or downright averse to sexual interaction. On the other end of the continuum lie those of us intensively driven to attain this bliss, scrambling past one lackluster or okayish orgasm after another in a desperate urge to finally find it, never stopping to feel the emotional backlog accrued along the way. Two main patterns with variations of adult sexual wounding can be identified. Firstly, having sex when we do not really feel like it, caving to either internal or external pressure. Secondly, moving too rapidly into sex and once engaged towards orgasm. Too rapidly, quote unquote, means suppressing the desire to take one's time or succumbing to old habits of impatience or need for the orgasmic jolt, different from the oneness of union alluded to earlier. The main agents of wounding involved here are sexual guilt. I've been saying no a lot, I should give my partner a yes this time. Or, I don't want to hurt him or her. Sexual terror, I don't dare say no again. Or, I'm afraid to slow him or her down. I'm afraid of their anger. I'm afraid of the backlash. And sexual rage, aren't you finished yet? Or, come on, it's going to be so good. Let's keep going. What's wrong? What do you mean you want to stop? Or bodily pounding, acting out a desire to dominate, etc. Though by no means an exclusive listing, these are some of the words associated with emotions that arise from a lack of inner and inter-alignment with acting on sexual feelings. To create space for oneness, we must clear out what keeps us divided from ourselves and each other. We cannot just go directly to feeling sexually patient by deciding so. We must really be there. When triggered before, during, or after sex, feeling and expressing these old, formerly denied feelings can help in all the ways previously described. If you can dare to stop and feel, notice how hard it is to stop. This is how strong our sexual conditioning is. Pursuing and wanting yummy sexual feelings isn't wrong, but the backlog must be addressed whenever stirred, or else the yummies get achieved with a potentially harsh price that will be collected on sooner or later. If you go past yourself or your partner, subtly or overtly, this harsh price could come up again, likely stronger next time, in ways you can't suppress, harsher than it would have been if you had paid attention the previous time. For example, let's say during foreplay I subtly pressure my girlfriend into going past her hesitation to have intercourse. She succumbs to my pressure, we have sex, and it's pretty good, but the orgasm is so-so, and afterward we can each tell there's something not quite right, something we likely ignored at a certain key moment. When I do the same thing again the next time we're engaged in lovemaking, she decides in the aftermath that she needs a break from the relationship because her needs do not feel honored. This is one example of a harsh reflection that may never have arisen if I had just proceeded more slowly the previous time and not pushed through a no from my partner.
Do you think that we build walls by not voicing those things when they come up in situations like that? Do you think that it's sort of natural to not say anything at the time because, you don't want to ruin the moment, and then you kind of forget to answer his phone calls and text messages for a while because you just don't want to get into that again, and so then there's a wall, and you don't know what the hell went on, and it seemed okay to you, and so and then the conversations don't happen, and lots of misunderstandings.
Yes, and it's hard to figure it out. Now, there's going to be, it's like that desire, that little voice of like, but I'm kind of triggered. I feel triggered right now, but I don't want to stop it. I don't want to interrupt it. And that right there, like, had I interrupted it, or had my partner interrupted, then we could have dealt with it. Yes, we would have put a stop to things right then, but we wouldn't have skipped any steps, because that's the thing. I mean, sexual activity for the human race is so fraught with stuff from the past and stuff that's happening now that ties into the past, because we're opening ourselves up, and there's when we open both our conscious selves and our subconscious selves, and the subconscious can throw up a lot of stuff in the moment. So I include this section in here because I want to emphasize that we have a lot to heal from in the sexual arena, and it might to really not skip steps and to turn over all the stones, if we're really committed to going deep without going past ourselves or past our partners, then it seems like we might need to have a lot of stop-start, even if the next start is the next night or next week. And that might be what it takes to allow for all the feelings to come forward, rather than yet again going past them for the sake of the yummies that are happening.
Yeah, it's hard to interrupt though, and
it is,
and say something, because
it can be really hard.
It's a real bucket of ice water on things sometimes.
Oh, it's no question.
And you're I've read you're counseled to not talk about difficult issues in that moment, to talk about them ahead of time or later or something like that. But when we go to later, doesn't seem as important. You know what I mean?
Or the windows
Or the
closed.
windows
Or the,
closed of,
because it opened up, we had this wellspring of whatever, old grief, old fear. And by the time we get to the other side, it's too late.
yeah. But when you're in that, in a sexual moment, the egos are so vulnerable then that it
Yes.
makes it really difficult to say, by the way, can you not do that? Yeah.
Yeah, or I'm having some feelings right. It can be simple, like, oh, I'm having some feelings right now, and I'm having trouble staying present with what's happening with our bodies. And it can be as simple as that. And then there can be a moment of pause, and maybe there can be a breathing together, and just some stasis for a moment, and then see what feelings want to come up naturally, because the window is open at that moment.
It's almost
So
like
it's just
it's almost like you need a safe word in the vanilla relationship.
yeah. And I mean, it could cut across, BDSM too.
Yeah.
If you're on an emotional healing path and you want to get at something, like sometimes, you might go into a situation like that where you've set up something with your partner in a BDSM scenario, and it's like, I want to get at this old anger. And when I get there, I'm gonna want to stop right then, if I get there, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's funny that in a BDSM scenario, it's expected that if you have issues, you use your safe word and stop the process. We don't have that in vanilla relationships.
That's really
that
interesting.
It's okay to say, hey, time out.
Yeah.
It's not perceived as timeout means you are lousy. I'm not doing this. Timeout is, so there's something with me that needs to be addressed. We don't see that. Yeah, we need to learn from other walks of life, I guess.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, what else did you have for us?
All right. Well, let's it's quite a long chapter, and there's a lot of places I could keep going within that particular sub issue, but I'll leave that to whoever wants to go further with this book, and there's a lot there. I could keep going and just focus only on there, but let me skip around to another place.
Yeah, I would suggest you give them just tastes, so that
that's what it's about.
They're wanting to buy the book, okay?
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to a different chapter in a different section. Okay, well, this is related, and again, it's in part 5, the relational body, which is the longest part of the book, and it's the first chapter in that section. I've entitled it Relationships. Healing within the context of a relationship is perhaps the most challenging piece of the work we will ever do. We want a solid, committed, yummy relationship, but the road to a time-tested, work-in-progress pairing is strewn with casualties. We seem to make the same mistakes and repeat the same patterns of behavior, reactivity, and reversal so often that it is truly amazing that we keep continuing our search for connection. How does it come to this? After all, relationship is so incredible in the beginning. For most of us, we begin in the honeymoon phase, juicy and dreamy. Why can't it be like that forever? This part of any relationship marks the halcyon days, often used as a yardstick against the fearful, guilty, angry, and sad realities that can eventually replace the honeymoon phase and become the norm with our loved one. Distancing or fighting creeps in, overlaying the effortless connectedness we had so enjoyed before. We're not necessarily projecting perfection in the beginning or overlooking all the bad stuff, although that may sometimes be the case. It is just that in the very beginning, we have not yet found the gap. As we ascend to the heights of the honeymoon stage, we also cut deeper in exact measure.
I just have a note here that someone says, Oh, I can't say that name. Anisto Borster says, I did just buy a copy. I can't wait.
Oh, great.
There you go.
Great. I hope it speaks to you.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. No, that's fine. Thank you. We grow we grow in all ways within a relationship, separately and together. The energy of the relationship entity, or the combined field of the two people involved, quite literally gets bigger. This energy pushes on all the unhealed and unexamined places within ourselves and our partner, and the gap is the container for all that we had previously pushed away and anything we resist looking at too closely. The gap is another word for splits or holes in our energy field, and into those subconscious gaps go everything we have not dealt with or consciously accepted. The gap is always lurking within us until we are completely healed, and it cannot be avoided when interpersonal connections get deeper and begin to touch our places of wounding. The gap is within us as individuals and between us as couples. The gap is primarily a time gap, the time between receiving a trigger and expressing natural emotional response to that trigger can be minutes, hours, years, or lifetimes long. The longer the time gap, the longer and more powerfully my denial is able to affect me and those around me in potentially destructive ways. The following commentary further explaining the gap was written by Kendra Thomas and is reprinted here by permission. The gap is not logical because the gap is the disconnected part of self, disconnected from conscious awareness and understanding of the now. It holds a faulty core belief that was actually true in the moment for that reality when this part of you split off from the rest, but that faulty core belief is held frozen and cannot evolve. That part of you appears illogical, but it actually is very logical if you go ask it what it thinks and why, and allow it to tell you its story. Then you can see why that part of you would think that way. Then, of course, feeling and expressing the feelings is what brings in spirit, which is understanding, and gets that part of you caught up with events and understandings of the here and now. The gap is in your own subconscious mind where the unexpressed feelings from the past are disconnected from the current understandings of the now. Different people handle hitting the gap in different ways. This is me again. Some of us act out, engaging in addictive behaviors of escape. Some of us blame our partner to avoid taking responsibility for our part. At our best, we can learn to recognize and apply the understanding that our partner is our mirror, showing us something we cannot yet see or accept about ourselves. Getting this, we seek in our healing intent amidst the emotional turmoil to find our role or responsibility in the situation. When in a gap, dropping out of words as soon as possible and into wordless emotional release minimizes damage to the hearts involved. The gap's arrival is signaled by a surface trigger. In response to this trigger, one person or both people in the relationship surfaces old, sometimes ancient emotional pain. When the gap is present, this pain is not recognized as emanating from within the self. Instead, it looks like the mirror or other is the cause and source of this pain. We are sure they have done something to us and need to apologize or change. It can take a big effort to be consciously aware enough to remind ourselves, it's about me. I know it's really about me. When the initial translation of the rising feeling is actually most often, damn it, I know it's about them. If I'm able to cry my hurt or express my anger or fear appropriately, space can be cleared within the receptive centers of the emotional body, and spirit can enter that space with the light of understanding. I then can receive realizations about my own involvement. Oh, that's what it's really about. This is where I come in. This is what she or he is reminding me of. Yeah. The more I express the triggered feelings in sound or in tears and heal my hurt places, the more I do not have these triggers so in my face that I am flailing and blindly striking back and blaming. In fact, once true depth of understanding is reached, these kinds of overwhelming triggers are no longer drawn by the emotional body, which only draws an exact energetic match to the size of the emotional energy that is being held in a state of denial regarding the issue at hand. one more paragraph here, and then I'll take a little break. It helps to deeply examine the belief many of us carry that says, if I am right, I win and I feel good. If I'm wrong, I will die. The battle for right and wrong is a red herring. I can slice and dice in a point of view battle with anyone, but winning this kind of war is a lonely victory. My mate is either bruised or bleeding afterwards. So am I if I look closely enough, although my heart is probably too closed to care until I can open again and see the cost of my win. Okay, now I could go on and finish another subsection related to that, just 3 more paragraphs.
Sure, if you like.
Key is seeking my responsibility. When I feel victimized, I can ask myself, what subconscious or split off part of me is drawing this reflection to me? Our split off, unowned, also known as gapped, energies draw situations to ourselves that can be triggers for balancing those energies. One of the most difficult aspects of a given gap between lovers is recognizing the interlocking and meshing patterns that are enacted between the two. They're often complex and disguised or completely hidden, especially when strong feelings are being stirred into life. When things reach the point in a relationship where I cannot tell what's going on, who started what, or who is responsible, I found that the easiest way out of the morass is to seek my own responsibility. I've also found that it is a losing proposition to instead speculate aloud upon my partner's responsibility or blame them for what I am sure they are doing wrong. I prefer to feel and express whatever it is I feel in a safe and responsible way, and then look at what my role is, because most often the understanding is not available until after the emotions stirred or resolved, particularly if I start with any kind of blaming, angry feelings toward my partner. If I try to figure it out either in my own brain first or in charged dialogue with my partner during the emotional activation phase of the gap, I do not get very far. Once I express and the fog clears, I can more easily see my responsibility.
That's very true.
Yeah, it sure seems it.
Interesting book. I'm gonna go and buy a copy myself. So I've most enjoyed having you with us, and I think the folks here have the ability to buy. It sounds like somebody is already looking at buying a book, so that's cool. So I wish you all tons of success with that. Are you gonna take your show on the road?
I'm just figuring it out as I go along. I'm not sure what's next for the marketing phase and because I'm really just in the beginning launch. I kind of semi-announced it when I had the audiobook and ebook ready, but now that the soft cover's ready, which is what a lot of people were waiting for, I'm kind of taking it one step at a time, and I imagine at some point there'll be something like that, taking it on the road, but I have sort of visioned that, but I don't know yet what that's going to look like.
Yeah, well, I guess we don't know what that looks like anyways, because all the traditional places that you would go, festivals and stuff to market yourself have been, not doing anything.
And that's really why I haven't gotten more grounded with what am I going to do, how am I going to take it to people? Because I've got to wait till everything is completely opened up. I feel like I do before I really nail that down as to what I want to do with it.
Right.
Go on some kind of touring or whatever.
Yeah, I agreed. I think it's interesting that you did your ebook and your audiobook first and your soft cover second. I think that's...
I actually didn't. The soft cover was... So it was easier to push through the ebook and the audiobook through my distributor, and the reason the print book didn't come out right with those two is I kept getting hung up with delays from the distribution, and then they would kick it back and say, you need to change this, you need to fix that. Things weren't quite right, and the particular distributor I was working with changed their whole methodology of going to print, and they were new to print anyway. But they finally got it together. It took a number of months of kind of me being patient. And so
it appears to have paid off. Have you got a copy there? You can show us the cover.
Yeah. Let me pick it up. Pick it up and show you.
That's a nice looking book.
Yeah, beautiful artwork that my partner Phoenix did. And that's Phoenix Wolfray. And
she have beautiful singing voice. As I
yeah,
recall.
she does. She has a beautiful singing voice, and we sang that night at Thanksgiving.
That's right. Yeah. So that's a pretty thick book there. Well done.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
Sounds like your 17 years of your baby's finally here, and that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So I'm not gonna keep you any longer.
No problem.
Great. It's been great having you.
Yeah, it's been good to be here.
And we will have this up on YouTube probably Monday, Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It takes we do a little bit of editing and farting around with it, and
good. I'll look for the link on your YouTube and.
Yeah, well, I'll send it directly to you. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. As soon as it's up, I'll let you know.
All right.
Oh, and your anyone that appears on Writers Open Mic gets a T-shirt.
Ooh, yes, T-shirt.
So I'll.
I got the T-shirt.
Yeah, so you've been there, done that, and now you got the T-shirt. There you go. So I'll message you about size and color and all that stuff, and then we'll get you one of those too.
Great.
Alrighty.
Thanks so much, Zoe. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. You have a good night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.